Hi everyone, it's Penny Black and Jill Foster here with a new video series called Sketch School. So this is the first in 8 videos where I'll be revisiting sketches from previous videos and ebooks and using them with new Christmas themed Penny Black products. So I'm really excited to show how these are sketches that you can continue to go back to again and again, maybe mix things up a little bit, and just sharing how I like to return to sketches and really make sketches work for me. So this is the original sketch, and I think of this as kind of like just a band, a basic band sketch, a band of paper with an embossed background. Now, if you love sketches and you haven't checked out my ebooks, I have 3 now that are full of card sketches. I'll link them down for you below. So I like to prepare my sketches, kind of create envelopes that have things cut down as much as possible for the basic sketch. Then whenever I have new stamps or dies, I can turn to these sketches and create the cards. I also love the process of just creating these envelopes. It's something I can do when I want to be creative but don't want to think too hard. So that's what was in my envelope. And now what I've done is taken one of those bands from the envelope and I'm stamping Penny Black's new stamp called Heart Song onto that band. And what I love about that band is that when you have a larger stamp like this, using just part of it on a band like that just gives it a whole new look. I like to stamp off of the edge, and that gives also a more dynamic look to your design. Now I'm stamping onto Canson 140-pound watercolor paper. I stamped with Memento Toffee Crunch ink. It gives me kind of like a faux no-line look without straining to see the lines. And I'm going to paint this in using Distress Ink Reinkers used as watercolors. So I just squeeze those on my palette. I have a cup of water, my paintbrush, and a paper towel handy. Now, if you would like a lot more detail about my painting process, I do have a video with frequently asked questions where I go through things much slower, but I will go ahead and link that video for you down in that YouTube description box below. Also, if you have any questions about any of the products that I'm using in this video, those are all listed for you down below. The Penny Black products are all listed and linked, and any of the other things I'm using like paint, ink, paintbrush, colors of paint that I'm using, everything is listed for you down below. There's a little section called Other Supplies, so it's all there for you. So what I'm doing is I'm just beginning by painting in these berries. And I love with this, you can go bright red, and I'm going to have some cards for you where I went really red with the berries. But on this one, I'm going with kind of a turquoise blue. So I'm putting down the re-inker color right from my palette onto sort of the part of the berry that's closest to the stem. I rinse off my brush, pat it dry on my paper towel, and go back and blend that out. I used Evergreen Bough, and then I actually went back with a little bit of faded jeans, as you can see there, to give it just more of a blue tint. It's just really kind of like this nice uh, smoky turquoise color. I guess you could describe it. I just thought it was really pretty. Now my first ones I went a bit lighter than I wanted, and so I'm just going back now and darkening that up, and I'll just continue that process throughout the image. Next, I'm going to begin working on the bird. So I'm again picking up that re-inker ink from my palette and putting it right to the area of the image that I want to be the darkest. Then off camera there, I rinse off my paintbrush, pat it on the paper towel, and then go back and blend that darker color out to where I want it to be lighter. Now if I put a little too much down or I want to lighten it up, I can go in with a dried off paintbrush, just pat it on the paper towel, what would be called like a thirsty brush, and also lift color. I can also go back and add darker color like I am doing now if I want to darken things up a little bit. Now when you're painting, also don't be afraid to turn your image so that it's more comfortable. I'm moving on to the wing now, putting down that ink where I want it to be the darkest, rinsing off my brush, patting it dry, and going back to blend that out. Now, I'm going to be working on some areas that are near each other, so I'm going to go ahead and dry that so they don't start bleeding into each other. So Paint will move wherever it is wet, and so you will want to dry if you're doing any areas that are right next to each other, or like I'm doing here, I wanted to go back and really darken up that one corner of the wing, and so I dried it and then was able to do that and leave sort of those brush stroke lines. They didn't blend out into the wet area. So I'm moving on here. Again, I'm using that red. And then I also, often when I use a red, I like to put a touch of yellow. This is some scattered straw. And I feel like that helps in the lighter area of the red to keep it from going to pink. So you can see there, all working at the same time. I put in the darker red, blended that out, and dropped in just a little touch of a yellow, that scattered straw. Now I'm just fiddling. I totally didn't need to do that, but sometimes I just fiddle around when I'm painting on these. I'm going to add a little bit of a shadow here, so going in with some weathered wood Distress Ink Reinker, putting it straight from the palette onto the paper, rinsing off my brush, patting it dry, and then going back to blend it. Just creates a nice little shadow there under the wing. I'll go ahead and paint in the beak and the feet here. I just love this bird. I love penny black birds because I feel like they have such a natural beauty to them, but they always look happy. And so I just love these little happy round birds. They're perfect for holidays, but also just any time of year. I just love a bird. I just think it's beautiful. So now what I'm doing is I'm going in with just a little bit of Gathered Twigs Distress Ink Reinker and painting over those lines. You could also use like a fine tip marker if you are more comfortable with that, or you feel like you have more control for fine lines like that. And don't be afraid of doing this. I find it at first it may seem sort of daunting, like, oh, tracing over these fine lines, but it actually goes very quickly, and I like how it brings that whole branch and the curve of that branch to life. Now for my sentiment, I'm going to use a Stick and Shine sentiment from our Shimmering Piece set. So I've cut out the sentiment that I want to use. Our Stick and Shine designs, they are like a sort of like a sticky rub-on. So I'm going to peeled off the backing, press that down, and rub it with our applicator tool. Now you can put foil over this, but I decided to mix it up here, and I'm going to add some embossing powder. So this is Ranger Liquid Platinum Embossing Powder. So I'm just sprinkling it onto that sticky design, and then I will heat to set that. Now if you haven't seen our Stick and Shine designs yet, I'll link to a video all about them down below. They are so fun to use, and if you like to add foil or you want to try foil, but you want to do it really easily without having to buy any fancy machines or use any heat, these work beautifully for that. But like I'm doing here, you can also use them with embossing powder. I think that is just so elegant and beautiful for Christmas. And it's really easy to do. So after I've spent all that time painting, I want to be careful that I don't mess it up with my sentiment. Now this is our embossing folder called Melody. This is a new embossing folder. Again, perfect to use with any bird stamp, any time of year. Great at Christmas time too for carols and birds and singing, but I just love this. And I'm putting just a light layer of that Toffee Crunch Distress Ink over the top, and that kind of highlights the embossing on there. Now I did take a little piece of Kraft cardstock from my stash and just added a slight border underneath the band. Now these are all different ways you can sort of mix up sketches. So when I've done a sketch a lot, some sketches I think I could do forever, never get sick of them, but it's little touches like this, changing up the sentiment with a Stick and Shine sentiment, adding that little border along the bottom, adding some embellishments like I'm going to do here that keeps them fresh, keeps them fun, and also helps them fit with products that you have that you want to use. So this is our Stick and Shine design snowflakes, and I'm just putting several down onto, this time I'm using some Bristol smooth paper. So these are easiest to do on a smooth paper, but as you can see, I did that sentiment on the watercolor paper. I am sprinkling them with that embossing powder. Again, you could also use them with foil, whatever you'd like. Now I'm only going to use 3 on my this card, but I like to do several at a time, and this set's really great. You get a whole bunch of snowflakes, and we have the cutout dies to match them. So as you can see, I just cut those out, and now I am embellishing my card. So I've taken that sketch design, I've added a couple of different embellishments, that little border along the bottom, and also using that Stick and Shine designs with embossing powder just to give it a different fresh look and keep it fun. So we'll take a look here at that finished card design, and then I will show you a little bit more on another card using this same sketch. So here I'm taking another stick and shine design. This is our mosaic. This might be one of my top favorite stick and shine designs because you can easily get this really intricate background, or you can trim it apart and use it as a border. I'm just rubbing it on with our applicator tool, and then I'm going to just peel that up. And now all of that design where you see gray is sticky. And again, I'm going to emboss this. So I'm just playing around with some of my embossing powders. And I am using this lighter blue. This is a Wendy Vecchi Sky Blue embossing powder. Sprinkling that on, and then I will heat to set. And again, this is another way to keep this sketch really fresh and fun. I'm switching up the background that I am doing now. So keeping the sketch the same, but changing around the background. Instead of an embossed background, I'm going like a dry embossed background. I'm doing a heat embossed background with the stick and shine design. And I'm actually going to do a resist with this. So once that's embossed, I can put my distress inks over the top, and that is going to resist that ink. So I'm going to just put that ink over the top. I'm using an ink blending tool and a foam pad. Now I wanted this to have the design to be light and the background to be dark. So you certainly could just do that onto a darker piece of cardstock. I like the subtle variation you get by doing the inking yourself, but on colored cardstock is an absolute option. Now, as I did this, I thought I'm just not seeing quite enough contrast here. So I kept adding more layers. Now, I always, with everything, usually start light. You can always go back and add more to darken it up, but you can't take it away. So here's the panel that I've stamped and painted. And so I decided I think I want to go a little bit lighter. I'm rubbing this off with a paper towel, and I'm just not seeing that design as much as I want to. That is really pretty, especially if you wanted something very subtle, but I'm going to go in now with a darker ink with some chipped sapphire and go over the top of this again. As you can see, I've also trimmed it down to fit a standard size card. So all of these cards are standard A2 4¼ by 5½ inch cards. And now you can really see that embossed design, keeping that light color of embossing. It's resisting the ink, and just looking, I think, so spectacular, so fun, something really different to add to this sketch. Again, it was really easy to do this intricate design using that stick and shine sheet. So there you can see that card, and then just a little close-up of that background. So fun to do. And that's the finished card. So I followed the same sketch, just switched up my technique a little bit for the background. Now here again, I'm going to use that same stick and shine design, peeling off the backing, putting it onto my smooth Bristol cardstock, applying that with my applicator tool. You could also just use your hands, press really hard, or like an old credit card or gift card to apply that to your paper. Now after you peel this up, you could also put foil over that, and I'll be showing that in another video, but I was just on an embossing powder kick. I had them out, so now I'm going to do some gold. So I'm going to just sprinkle that on. And then I will heat to set that. Just melt that powder. And I trimmed it down, and here is the look. Isn't that beautiful? So great for holiday cards. It's really fun to add a little bit of sparkle and shine to them. And now I've taken the sketch and I have rotated it. So it's the same sketch, but I have just rotated it. I've also added that little Kraft border and a die cut border. Simple changes using the same sketch, but making it fit with the products and things that I'm excited to be using. Now here I'm using that same snowflakes stick and shine design, putting it onto my cardstock, and I'm going to now sprinkle these with white embossing powder, and I will heat to set. And then I'm going to do that same emboss resist technique with these. So I've got my distress ink in the color of Evergreen Bough, and I'm going over the top of those, and now you can really see that white snowflake pop. Such a satisfying technique too. Now I like to, with these, just do several at once, and then I can have them, we have the matching cutout for these snowflakes, and I can just have them ready to go. I keep a little bowl and by my craft spot, and I can just grab them. Sort of like in the springtime, I always have butterflies cut out. For winter and Christmas cards, I like to have some snowflakes cut out. Now I'm putting a touch of that Memento Toffee Crunch on the top of this. And then I'll just buff that with a paper towel, and look at that. Isn't that pretty? I cut those out and I added them to this card. Again, following that sketch, but here again, I've rotated it. I've added a slight border and kept that embossed background. So here is a look at all of the cards we created in this first video today. You can see the same basic sketch, but just with some slight variations. A really easy go-to sketch. I think it's just super useful. You can use it with pretty much anything you have, cute to elegant, trying different embossed backgrounds. There again, I have rotated the sketch. You can get a look at that beautiful gold shine on there. Added that border die. And again, this is another one that is rotated. I have embossed, that's our Blizzard embossing folder for that background, and I've embellished with those snowflakes. So I hope you enjoyed this first lesson of Sketch School. If you did, please be sure to like our video and subscribe to our channel. And you can check out the playlist below for more card sketch inspiration. So I've got everything linked up for you down below. Thanks for watching.